Thanks a lot for everyone for jumping on this video today. We've got Nick Swan, founder of SEO Testing. He's going to introduce it in a little second. Essentially how this chat's going to work is we're going to have a bit of an informal chat. We're going to first talk about SEO testing, both the software and the practice. And then we're going to get into more like software and what it's like to run a software business. So hopefully should be a little bit of something regardless of what side you are of my audience. Nick, would you mind just beginning introducing yourself, maybe a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for asking me on, first of all. We've been back and forth having a few chats, haven't we, over the past 6-12 months or so, which has been fun. So it's nice to get something down, recorded, that other people will be able to listen to as well. Hopefully our random wafflings will prove useful to some people.
We'll glue together. My editor will have a job after.
So yeah, my name's Nick. I am based in Bude in Cornwall in southwest England. So we're both in the same country for the first time in a little while as well, which is nice. Yeah. We moved down here about 7 or 8 years ago, mostly due to, the work that I do of being able to work from anywhere. As, Henry goes globe trotting around the world. I've just moved down to Cornwall, so not quite as far as Henry has been around. But yeah, we live down in Cornwall with our 3 kids, small dog, Sophie, my partner. And yeah, living the dream, not quite surfing. I don't do any surfing, which is really what people move down here for, but lots of golf, cycling, kids football, all that kind of good stuff.
And what got you into SEO in the first place? Like, how did you get into this world?
Well, this goes back a long way. So back to 1998. You were even born then, Henry?
I was 97. I didn't want to say
you
that.
only were. That's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I was just about to go to university then, and I had an older brother who's 10 years older than me, and he had his own business. And he came up with the idea of, Nick, you build me a website and get me ranking in some search engines, I'll pay your accommodation fees. And I was like, that sounds like a great deal. I can spend all my student loan money on beer then. I don't have to worry about paying my accommodation. I was like, this is a win-win situation. I was studying software engineering at university anyway, so I was always interested in computers, hacking around, making my own games, all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, got going with Dreamweaver and Fireworks and all that kind of stuff, and getting the site ranking in Alta Vista. And then I think it was probably the 2nd or 3rd year at university, when you're walking around the computer labs, you started to notice everyone had Google on their screen rather than Alta Vista and stuff like that. And it was like the big shift over to what is Google. And we've been on ever since. So that's what got me started in SEO really, was kind of getting a family member's site ranking in the search engines. And although I've worked on various projects at other companies, had my own businesses and so on since, I've always kind of had a marketing interest and background, and always worked on the SEO side of things. So although a tool or software product hasn't been SEO focused previously, I've worked on, getting the site ranking and building links to it and all that kind of stuff. So we've always had a SEO interest side. Yeah.
I guess in that case, what interesting, rather than going straight into SEO testing, the software, maybe just start off the practice, explain what SEO testing is, speak a little bit about how you got into it, and then maybe link that to the origins of the software then.
Yeah, sure. So I guess this was 2013. I just finished working. I just sold my interest in one business, and I was kind of scratching around, figuring out what to do next, trying various side projects as we all do to see which one sticks. And a friend suggested looking at voucher codes website, so called coupon code websites over in the US, but we call them voucher codes or discount codes in the UK. And it was a really competitive kind of search listing to work in. So as much as anything, I was interested in a challenge of seeing if we could get a site ranking. It was also during the periods of some quite aggressive, ironically, as it's just happened again, algorithm updates, Panda and Penguin and those kind of things, where lots of coupon sites or voucher code sites that have been up to really dodgy practices were getting kicked out of the index, wiped out. And so I was like, well, if we do something, down the middle, white hat, legit, perhaps we've got a good chance of ranking while there's all this turmoil in the search results. And so it took about a year, but we did actually get some really good rankings, and kind of the revenue that was coming in from was really good. And kind of like getting a small improvement in click-through rate on such high search volume terms can make a massive difference in the traffic you're getting on the site, and then the affiliate revenue you're getting coming through. And so I was doing lots of testing of just changing, page titles and meta descriptions to change how the page would appear in the search listings in Google. And I was trying to track all of these changes in a spreadsheet, looking up the data in Webmaster Tools, as it was called then, manually, because you didn't want to leave it too long, because if the click-through rate dropped, you wanted to put it back to what it was before and so on. But once you're doing that for like 10 pages and you're trying to look all those data points up each day, it was just like mind-numbingly boring. And I was like, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And that's kind of where the software engineering background came in again, of like, there's an API, let's hack together a way of trying to automate this, and kind of accidentally built a tool kind of from that.
And did it was it then just being used internally for the voucher website, or when was the moment where you're like, this is a problem that other people are facing, I need to turn it into something, or was it just like, this is for me? How did that work out?
So it was just internally to start with. So it's definitely a scratch my own itch kind of problem to solve. And that's kind of the approach I try to take with any product that I would look at, either now or in the future. I would only build stuff that I would use myself. I've tried to build stuff for other audiences and I've just lost interest for whatever reason. And I always kind of think, if you build something that solves your own problem, that's a success straight from the get-go. It doesn't matter if other people find it useful or not. You're saving yourself time and money and so on. And so funny bit of the story really is that we started doing well as the Voucher Codes website, but then loads of spam sites just started appearing in the search results and Google didn't seem to care about cleaning them up. Or if they did kind of delist one, people would just 301 redirect it to another spam site and all that kind of stuff. Google weren't really asked about cleaning that particular sector up now, which is ironic because they've just delisted a load of subfolders and subdomains in the voucher and coupon code section. That was kind of the tipping point of when the Voucher Code site was kind of on the decline because of all these spam sites appearing in the search results. The tool was kind of really useful and really still in a hacked together state. But I was like, well, if I'm finding this useful, perhaps other people will as well. So I kind of built it out a bit more. I was already in lots of SEO communities, Facebook groups and so on already. So shared it with a few friends. I was like, what do you think of this type of tool? Do you find it interesting? And they kind of tested it, gave me some feedback, thought it was really good. And it's kind of taken on its own legs from there, really.
Yeah. And I was going to say normal business owner. I don't know when we class us as normal, like caring about SEO this much, but like a typical business owner who maybe they've got a marketing manager, or what is SEO testing, the practice, going to look like to them on a day-by-day basis?
Yeah, so this is interesting, really. I guess I think that we've been doing SEO testing, ever since we've been doing SEO. So the practice itself isn't new. I guess we've kind of tried to give a name to it and kind of build a brand or a tool around that name as well. And so effectively, it's kind of running an experiment or making a change to a page or some pages on your site and seeing how that change affects your rankings and the clicks you're going to get from Google and your position of where you rank in Google. Now, I kind of say we've always been doing this because we have. So even back in 1998, when I was hacking around on building my brother's website, we'd make a change to a page and then we'd hopefully see, by loading the search results, we'd appear higher, or we'd use a rank tracker and we'd track how our rankings were doing by looking at that once a day whenever it updated. And we go, oh, look, that change we made has made a positive difference. We've gone up 3 places. Let's make that similar type of change to all our other pages. Or you'd say, oh, it's gone down. Actually, that wasn't good. Let's reverse it or let's do something different. I think the difference now is that through us, and not just through us, there's other tools that do this as well, that work with Search Console data. Rather than just watching the ranking position of a page or a query, there's more data available now through Search Console and through the API. So rather than just average or ranking position, we can bring back the clicks per day that the page or query is getting, the impressions it's getting, click-through rate as before, average position, the number of queries that the page is ranking for, all automated as well. So there's no manual or having to remember to look up the rank tracker or look up the data in Search Console. Once you set up a test in our tool, we'll automatically bring the data back for you, show you the progress that the page is making, and then you can draw your conclusions from there as to whether the changes have been good or bad.
Realistically in Google Ads, like Google Ads gives you that instant feedback, what's your cost per click? You can then get like your cost per lead, cost per sale. I've never run a paid ad, so I don't know the technical details, but like in theory, as you said, SEO is a iterative process anyway. So you're always testing, and essentially what SEO testing does as software is it connects the dots to, okay, you made a change because in theory it's best practice, but most people, and I'm definitely guilty of this, aren't actually seeing how it changed things. And obviously that your rankings and your click-through rate is a leading indicator for business success if you're making money from SEO, which is why it solves one, a big problem, and two, is valuable for business owners. I guess from your experience with building the software and then with your customers doing SEO for your own website, for people watching, like what moves the needle, like what the most successful tests you've seen that anyone watching this can take away and apply to their own website?
Well, so you're kind of asking me to do what we shouldn't do, which is apply broad strokes to the whole of like all websites. So like you kind of said though, what's interesting, it used to be 5-6 years ago, you'd see a case study or a best practice and you could apply that across all websites and all niches. Then 3 years ago, it would be like, well, this case study works for this particular travel sector, but it won't work for automotive, for example. But even now, the algorithms are so complex, and with machine learning and so on, the black box within Google, there's arguments whether, the search engineers in Google even know what the ranking factors are anymore because it's being, automatically calculated by machine learning and so on. The different factors could be different for different sectors, different niches, different queries even, what the ranking factors are. So although you should use case studies and best practices for inspiration of potentially things you could change and could try and test, you really do need to take a kind of test-driven approach and a way of saying, we made this change on this date. Let's make sure we capture the data and we're going to look at what the actual effect of that change was. But for some kind of general things that we've seen and what's worked well for us, we've made big investment because we're not a massive of business. But for us, a big investment in video. And so for when we're creating content now, we've always got it in our minds and in the pipeline to create an accompanying video that goes alongside that bit of content.
Yeah.
It works for a number of reasons. One, for user education. So people learn in different ways. Some people like to read an article. Some people like to watch a video. Some people prefer pictures and so on. And so by us doing an accompanying video, if you prefer to watch a video, you'll click on the embedded video on our content page. You'll watch that video. It increases dwell time on the page, all that kind of good stuff.
It's a big difference when I actually on my to-do list next today is find all the blogs that don't have videos, because you see the massive difference in the time on the page, like average time on page.
Yeah, definitely. And then obviously you've created a video, so you can reuse that across YouTube, different publishing platforms and so on and so forth as well. So we've always seen good results from doing video. And then there's some general SEO good practices. So internal linking, whenever we do an exercise of going through and optimizing internal links, we see good results. Content refreshes generally, still page titles and meta descriptions, which is what I started with, really testing back in 2013, 14 and so on. Getting the right format or using the right words in page titles and meta descriptions can still make a big difference in terms of click-through rate initially, and then potentially feed through to improvements in position and so on.
This is maybe a little bit more of a technical question, but have you noticed any difference with like varying the anchor text of internal links? Have you gone into that granular? Do you know if that plays an impact?
We have, and so probably for us, our site perhaps isn't big enough to kind of worry about that too much.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we're aware of. So a little while ago, and you can say where the questions come from perhaps as well. So a little while ago, people were kind of like, you can internally link with whatever anchor text you want. Google doesn't penalize you it will do for external backlink anchor text potentially. And so people just had a field day of just every time they wanted to mention product B, they would just link through with the exact text match of product B. But I've seen on Twitter, there's some people saying that some of the algorithm updates run through in March and April. They've noticed some patterns around, overly optimized internal links and stuff. I don't know whether that's where you picked that up for that question from, maybe.
I haven't. It's just something I think a lot about with how much of an impact. You're literally just using your website. You're doing nothing else other than linking to certain pages, and it can increase rankings. So it's like low hanging fruit. Well, if you can get that to be 10% better through varying the anchor text, it's maybe quite specific. So yeah, I guess, is there anything else that you want to bring up about SEO testing before we go on to the second part? Anything about SEO that you'd like to touch upon that you've seen from previous conversations people seem to quite find interesting? Or
yeah, I guess this would be interesting for you from an agency point of view as well. So the tool was originally built on the premise of people want to run experiments. So they want to make changes, on a small subset of pages before rolling out, seeing positive results, and then rolling out to a bigger set of pages. We've done lots of speaking to our customers, which I know you've done as well for your tool as well, which is, massively valuable. And we found out that actually there's quite a sizable number of our customers who don't use our tool and the SEO testing we have as an experimental thing. They're going to be making changes to pages anyway. Like we've discussed, even we know adding video to pages is a good thing. So again, we don't need to run that as an experiment per se, but still people are doing that and they want to use our time-based SEO tests to track the results of the changes they're making still. So that from an agency point of view, or even an in-house, reporting to managers point of view, they've then got the reports and the data and the artifacts of saying, this is the work I've done over the past month and these are the positive results that I've seen. And so people are using SEO tests to show kind of the impact of their work and the positive difference that SEO and that they are making. And the testing's a good thing as well. So I'm not sure what you do with your agency, whether you deliver an end of month report, but I know from my kind of, history of doing some consulting and freelancing, we put all this effort into an end of month report that shows, all the great work we've done and so on, but we don't actually know whether it's ever read as part of the problem. Whereas with being able to make changes to pages and then set up tests that are run, we've then got the opportunity to drip feed good news through to clients as these tests are finishing. So each week we can say, hey, look, we've seen the great results from this page that we've done. Next week it will be, we've done some internal linking. This is the great results we've seen from that. So you can drip feed good news through to clients rather than sending them one big report at the end of a month, which you should send as well probably, but sending them a report that they perhaps gloss over and don't even pay too much attention to, and so miss all the good work and all the good news that you're delivering.
Yeah, particularly because the work that goes into SEO, I was speaking about friend to this yesterday, the work, again, it's the leading stuff. and that if a client isn't going to get results for, let's say, 6 months, that granular stuff that's happening day by day, week by week, it is important. And the last thing that you want your client to be thinking about is, what is Nick doing? What's Henry doing? Because in SEO, there's always stuff going on.
Yep.
And as a result, we're actually building a dashboard where that gets tracked a little bit better. So with SEO testing, could you share a view link for a client to see, or would you share a screenshot of the test?
Just a couple of weeks ago, you probably saw the LinkedIn post. So we've added magic links to the tool. So you can add users to our tools. You could add clients to the tool so they could see their own site and everything. But people forget usernames and passwords. They don't want to log into external systems all the time, that kind of thing. So we've added the ability to share a magic link, which creates like an encoded URL. People can't, security by obscurity, you can't easily guess it. You can then send to a client, they can click on, and it will give you a read-only view of a particular page that you were wanting to share with them for a limited time if you want, just for a day, a week or whatever, or you can do it forever. That's been really good in terms of helping people share the stuff that they're doing within the tool to their clients and managers. And so on.
We get asked, it's interesting, we get asked a lot by our customers to do like an account handover. So web designers that will build a website, that will run it for SEO space and say, right, it's above 70, 80, like here's what we've done, because it's got the, I guess, proof of work with all the scans. They want to like hand it over to customers then. And it's interesting that you said forgetting passwords and that sort of stuff. I wonder if that's something that we're going to face when we release a version of that feature. So in terms of the use cases for SEO testing, the main ones from what you said are business owners or site owners that want to do tests on the site, and then also agencies that either want to do internal proof of work and results or show externally proof of work and results. Those are two main use cases, or three?
Two main kind of groups of customers. We've got our agencies, like you say, so they're working on 10, 15 sites or whatever. They want to roll out process across all client sites. They're tracking all the changes. They know they're collecting all the data for the changes they're making to client sites, and then being able to feed the results through, whether that's as a test experiment or whether that's this is the impact of the work we're doing. But then the second big group is in-house SEOs. So, everyone's got to report to someone, whether it's a client or management or stakeholders or whatever. Yeah. So in-house SEOs have to report on a monthly basis on the work they're doing and the progress they're making and the improvements they're making. So it's all about, the reporting side of things and showing, us SEOs know what we're talking about and they're bringing positive results, hopefully.
How long have you been running SEO testing?
So it kind of started in its very initial version back in 2017, but it was called a different name then. It was called Sanity Check. Part of the premise of that tool, as well as the testing side of things, was just archiving of Search Console data, because there was only 3 months of data available then. A couple of years after we launched, Google made 18 months worth of data available in Search Console. So that kind of removed a lot of the use case for that initial tool. But when we did lots of investigation and customer conversations again with people, they were like, the bit we're really using of Sanity Check is SEO testing. That's what's keeping us around and keeping us paying. And so I did as what you've done as well, and any other entrepreneur does, checked whether the domain name SEOtesting.com was available. And it was registered already, but the chap wasn't using it and he was up for selling it at a reasonable price. And so
that'd be nice.
That kind of made my mind up in terms of there's still legs in this. Let's reposition it as a tool called SEO testing. And it's the best thing we definitely did. It's been so much easier to, people just know what it is.
Get it straight away,
Get it straight away. Whereas Sanity Check is such an obscure name, it could do anything.
Yeah, it makes sense. I haven't got the exact number noted down, but I guess one of the benefits of that is a lot of people are searching for SEO testing. Would you guess, like, onto the software side of things, like what has been the main ways that you've grown SEO testing as a business, and how much has the domain played into that?
The domain's definitely helped. Yeah. So there's not a massive amount of search volume around SEO testing. Like, although I kind of say everyone's been doing SEO testing from the start, people just call it SEO. And so we're trying to give another name maybe to, the general day-to-day work that people are doing. But if you do go to Google and search for SEO testing, we come up top, which is good from our brand point of view and from, just people typing in for the actual practice of doing SEO testing. That's coming up top. In terms of how we've grown, organic traffic has been kind of the main source. It's been good again because we focus on this small niche of SEO, which is SEO testing. It's been easier for us to become experts in that small section of the SEO world because, as you know, competing against lots of other SEO tools in the search results is a really hard thing to do because everyone knows what they're doing. There's no quick or easy wins. But then the other way that we've grown is from word of mouth. So either sponsoring email newsletters, getting mentioned in email newsletters, people recommending us, giving some free subscriptions to people who got a big audience and will say positive things about you has always worked well. So Ahrefs
says 2.9 thousand people across the world search for SEO testing per per month.
A month. Let's have a look.
Yeah, and then it says 700 in the US, and that you're the top ranking result. So above SEMrush, Ahrefs, WebFX. So 2.9K a month.
That's for SEO space testing.
SEO testing.
Yeah.
SEO testing.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate actually.
Yeah, and it's super interesting how all of those big sites are on page one as well, and you're at the top with all of your pricing features, blog, etc. shown. I've read a lot recently in SEO how much exact match domains just do super well, which isn't really something that I've looked into before. I always knew it helps, but particularly in the past couple of years, it's meant to be even more powerful, because a friend of mine, he's looking at doing wireframe, like a wireframing agency, and wireframedesigner.com was free.
Yeah.
And I just said, buy it, throw a site up on there, put some links and see what happens. And a lot of people search for that as well. In terms of like growing the software business, like what have been the biggest challenges with getting the SEO, the software off the ground, but then also we've discussed before about funding and bootstrapping and that mix. Like, how have you approached that, and what have the biggest challenges been?
Yeah, so from 2016, 17 to, I'm trying to think when it was 2021, it was just me. So I was just working on the tool by myself, coding it, doing the marketing, doing the support, all that kind of stuff. I'd kind of started the tool when it kind of became a product. I was like, I'm going to do this as an experiment to see how big I can get it by myself through automation and systems and all that kind of stuff. But then I think I was just chatting with friends and stuff like that who perhaps had their own software business in a small team, and I was like, do you know, when I could take a holiday, it would be nice for people to deal with support and all that kind of stuff, and not have to carry my laptop on every holiday I go on. But I did make the decision as well, though, to, once I was going to look to build a team, was to hire people, because I've had previous software businesses before, hire people I know or people I like. So friend Phil was contracting at the time, I think, and I needed a specific bit of work doing. I think it was building the Chrome extension, and I knew that was in his wheelhouse of skill. So I was like, hey Phil, you've got 3 months available. Do you want to come and work on this with us? And yeah, because we'd worked before, it was like, getting the band back together, and we had a good time doing it and both enjoyed it. And so he kind of worked on another piece and another bit, and before we knew it, he was kind of like a full-time employee. And kind of once you take on one team member, it's like, well, let's take on another one, let's do another one.
But you were still doing support at that point?
Still doing support, I think. Yeah, we got someone in, I can't remember now. Someone joined to do support, who also does the videos as well. So that's Tiago. So there's not enough support for a full-time support person, but it was like a partial role. And then Tiago was interested in doing content and videos as well. So that's kind of worked out quite well from that point of view. But yeah, then it got to around, trying to think when it was, perhaps start of 2022. And there's Tiny Seed that do kind of investments in small bootstrap businesses. Startup accelerator, that's kind of the word I was looking for. I guess I find work most interesting when I'm learning new things, and I'd never taken any kind of investment before. So I was like, well, taking investment, we've been bootstrapped to now taking investment, and having some accountability would be interesting. So let's do that. There would be the kind of Tiny Seed community as well to be part of as well, because having moved to Cornwall and Bude, there's not too many other people doing SEO. And everyone's running touristy based businesses like surf schools and cafes and bars and things like that. So I was interested in taking the investment that's available from that, and then also the community side of things as well. So we joined Tiny Seed and took the investment in May 2022, which is just coming up to 2 years. And yeah, we used that funding to then grow the team a little bit further. So we were running at a loss as well as we were spending that investment, which again was a new experience.
What was that like?
I guess I'd done all the projections, and I was like, in a spreadsheet, that's as complex as my projections would get. I was like, well, if the monthly recurring revenue even stays, if we continue to grow at the same rate as we were growing before expanding the team, we should still be okay by date X. But hopefully by making the team bigger, we'd grow faster, so we would actually get there before anyway. But even if we were to stay at the same level, we'd get to our break-even point before we'd run out of money. So I kind of done the various scenarios. And so at the start, when we hired a couple of extra people, developers as well, which, as you probably know, from a salary point of view, the first couple of months of seeing all that extra salary come out of the bank account each month, and the HMRC contributions and national insurance and all that kind of stuff was a bit, oh yikes, there's lots of money going out each month. But then obviously as each month was going by, monthly recurring revenue was going up as well. So the kind of gap was narrowing all the time.
What was the biggest needle mover when it came to like increasing the MRR? Did you ever do any price increases? Was there some marketing channels that like created a big jump in signups? Like what were those?
Marketing channels I should probably have a better hand on, but I don't really. I'd say the one good thing about marketing, well, one advice I'd have around marketing channels is to double, and it's not my advice either, it's what someone within the Tiny Seed community. So we got content working and we were getting leads and business from the content and SEO results.
Yeah.
And then I started to think, well, got content kind of working, we should look at other channels now. And there's obviously so many other marketing channels, it's kind of stressing me out of which one to work on next, and trying to run multiple ones at the same time. And the results, the kind of advice I got was just, if there's one marketing channel that's working, just double down on it. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like we've not even touched, the vastness of what content and SEO is anyway. So let's just double down on SEO and on content. And so that's probably what made a good difference, is just focusing on that and doubling down on that rather than wasting time worrying about all the different platforms and social platforms and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I've never ran a paid ad ever. That would like open a whole can of worms. But I think you're right, because we've grown a lot through affiliates, which then causes word of mouth and snowballs. And I took a step back and was like, I reviewed our top affiliates. I went on YouTube and I was like, well, who are the biggest YouTubers in the space? And let's say the top 10, 8 of them were affiliates, but maybe 4 of them, like the visitors through the link was really, really low. You're like, well, if you can just get 2 of that or to do a big push on the affiliate, even just a sponsored newsletter, the cost and mental bandwidth that goes into that is so much smaller than it would be if you like started to do ads. As you said, there's so much untapped potential often, even from an SEO perspective. Like you could write 50 articles about SEO and that could bring in the same amount of leads as one page on your website if you just focus on that page and get it to rank from like 4 to 2 or 4 to 1. So it's interesting how sometimes it can be shiny object syndrome a little bit, I feel.
What was the second question? There was 2. Do you remember what the second one?
Good question. What was the second one? I asked about growth channels. So I asked about growth channels, and then it was like ones that have caused big spikes. If you've ever done something.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, you said about, a big was jump. It pricing changes and stuff like that? So the one thing led to a big increase in monthly recurring revenue. Yeah, there has been pricing changes, but we grandfather people in. So the price you subscribe to, you kind of remain on for the lifetime that you're on as a customer. And so whenever we've done pricing changes, we've always given a month warning, and we've sent out an email saying in a month we're going to put our prices up to this, but if you subscribe today, you're going to be locked in at today's prices and you'll remain on that. And so we always see an increase, a decent monthly recurring revenue increase that month preceding before a price increase, as people want to lock their pricing in. And I think that also helps with churn a little bit as well, because if you're on a good plan that's not available anymore, you're not going to want to cancel and then have to potentially go up to the higher cost plan.
I was going to ask, like, my churn definitely isn't ideal. It feels like I've never really heard the grandfathered in approach before. But on the other side, could you not argue that there's so much MRR growth on the table? Like you've got customers that love your product, probably wouldn't churn, even if you increase the price by 20, 30%. If they've been on the like a older price, if it leads to even a 20% increase in your MRR, what does that do to your bottom line? Have you ever thought about that, and have you approached it?
Yeah, so we did, funnily enough, only a few weeks ago, we pulled down from ChartMogul or Stripe, I can't remember which tool it was, but yeah, we pulled down all our customers that are on old plans, and we said, well, if all of these customers upgraded to current plan, what would that bring in? And added that all up. But then we said probably a likelihood that perhaps 40% of those customers might churn then because they're on a more expensive plan or for whatever reason. And so we said, well, actually, we can knock that amount down. And so it actually turned out that it was only actually going to bring in, I think, somewhere between, kind of spitballing these numbers, but say between 500 and 1,500 extra a monthly recurring revenue.
Interesting.
Which, for the sake of actually going out and going through this whole process of saying to customers, we're going to have to upgrade your pricing and this is why, and so on and so forth, it would have cost more for Vicky to kind of do that, I think, rather than us just have the goodwill and continue in offering those customers that pricing.
40%, like 40%'s a lot.
What's that? Sorry, you think?
Like 40% churn from the people that you push to a higher plan.
It was a complete guess. So that was just a number I picked out of my head. It could have been 10%.
It wasn't necessarily that.
Yeah, it could have been 10%. And then obviously it would make more sense to do it. But yeah, you got to pick a number when you're guessing.
Yeah, just because I was listening to a podcast the other day of like different ways that you can increase your prices and make more money, and I haven't implemented them, but things like, do you know who Alex Emoji is?
Yes.
And he says the take rate is the same. So like passing on Stripe fees to clients, just charging 3% more, charging every 4 weeks compared to a month, which means you get 13 billing cycles in a year as opposed to 12. Those things where like you take a step back and you sort of think, well, how much would that? And he obviously says increase your prices by a certain amount. And you sort of sitting there thinking, well, as long as you've got product market fit and people are getting value, even if you increase your price by 20%, how much would that change things?
Well, Alex Hormozy, I think people either love him or hate him. And
Do you
I'm not on the love side. So that's,
Why not? A little bit too much.
Too much. Yeah, I guess maybe it's the Britishness in me coming out. I don't know.
No, he's very American. British people tend to be maybe a little bit more reserved and a little bit like, I don't know, standoffish, polite. Not that Americans aren't, but I don't know. I can imagine it's a bit of a culture clash. And I guess just to round off something I wanted to touch upon, mainly because I'm interested in it. Backlinks. You've got backlinks from HubSpot, Shopify, Wix, Moz. How have you approached link building at SEO testing? How have you approached it? How did you get those killer links like those?
That's all. It's not really link building. It's just from relationship building. So that's been from either myself or Ryan, who's now kind of marketing lead at the company or the team, which have got relationships with the people who are on those sites and so on. So if we know they're writing an article about something in particular, we can get a quote in there, or if they've got a list of free tools and we feel we've got something that potentially could be included, we'll drop them an email and say, because we've met them before at conferences and all that kind of stuff, it's not a cold email. It's a, hey, how's it going? Could you include a link to our Google Search Console data downloader, for example, because we think it fits nicely into your list here.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing I know we spoke about it before, conferences that I haven't tapped into at all, but I've told myself this year I'm going to. Maybe Chiang Mai SEO as well. We'll see. But thanks a lot for your time, Nick. I feel we've covered like a lot of stuff there. Hopefully something for the SEO people and also the SaaS people. What I'll do, I'll leave a link to all of Nick's socials, to SEO testing, all that sort of stuff in the description. I'm also going to do an article on SEO space about it with a video in there. And obviously if you want to follow Nick from there, you can do so. Thanks a lot for coming on, mate.
Thanks for asking me. It's been great to chat.
Cheers.